Somewhere in Mexico, corrupt federal agents working for Javier Tuco have captured a gringo, mocking him for coming alone on his rescue mission. They try to end him with his own gun, but it won't fire, so the men decide to let their dogs rip him up. The men release the dogs, but the gringo frees himself and restrains both dogs. The gringo is John Hannibal Smith, a U.S. Army colonel. Somewhere else in Mexico, Army Ranger Bosco B.A. Baracus steals a Lambo and escapes from cops as part of a deal to free his girl, but the men refuse to honor their deal, so Bosco brutally beats all the men down. His girl turns out to be his customized kidnapper van. At Tuco's ranch, Ranger Lieutenant Templeton Faceman Peck has been captured, and Tuco plans to burn him alive for making love to his wife. Bosco is speeding along a dirt road when Hannibal appears before him, forcing him to stop and tries jacking him. Bosco refuses to comply, so Hannibal shoots him in the arm, but Bosco is more pissed Hannibal shot his van. Hannibal sees his Army Ranger tattoo and shows him his Ranger tattoo and introduces himself, and Bosco reveals he has heard of Hannibal. Hannibal then reveals his plan to save Peck and gets Bosco to join him on his mission. The men begin to dump fuel on Peck, who is still talking shit to Tuco, while Bosco and Hannibal race to his location. Before the men can set him ablaze, Bosco and Hannibal come charging into the compound. Hannibal cuts Peck free, sends him rolling down a hill while he grabs the woman and escapes under heavy gunfire. They meet up with Peck and head out. Hannibal berates Peck for trying to take down Tuco alone and almost getting everyone killed. Peck and Bosco introduce themselves. Meanwhile, Tuco and his men are mobilizing to hunt the soldiers. The three meet up with a contact who has an aircraft waiting for them, then head to a local army hospital where Hannibal plans to find their pilot, who turns out to be a mental patient, former combat pilot Howling Mad Murdoch. Meanwhile, an unaware Bosco is getting his wound stitched by Murdoch pretending to be a doctor, but a nurse then blows his cover. Bosco attacks him for stitching a lightning bolt on his arm, but Hannibal breaks them up and introduces the men to their pilot, and Murdoch gladly accepts. The four head to the roof of the building, where an old chopper is waiting for them. The federal agents arrive at the hospital, and there is a shootout on the roof. Murdoch pushes the men back with the chopper blades, accidentally crushing Bosco's van in the process, pissing him off. Another chopper is on their tail with Tuco inside, but Murdoch pulls off insane stunts, impressing even Tuco. Tuco fires heat-seeking missiles, but Murdoch shuts off the engines, evading the missiles. The chopper free-falls, but Murdoch restarts the engines. Tuco's chopper is still on their tail, so Hannibal lures him into American airspace, where his chopper is shot down by U.S. fighter jets. 8 years later, Bosco, Peck, and Murdoch are at an army base in Iraq when they are approached by DCIS captain and Peck's ex-girlfriend, Carissa Sosa, whom he hasn't seen in 3 years. He brings up old times, but Sosa's fondest memory was leaving him. Elsewhere on base, Hannibal is approached by CIA Special Ops Agent Lynch, who wants Hannibal's team to recover U.S. Treasury plates and over $1 billion in cash being moved out of Baghdad in an armored convoy. Meanwhile, Sosa tells Peck about rumored plates, but discourages them from going after it, threatening court-martial. She leaves and orders the soldiers assigned to her to keep an eye on them. Hannibal's commanding officer wants to send a private military team called Black Forest, as the army has been ordered to stay out of Baghdad, but Hannibal wants the mission, noting that Black Forest is just a group of frat boys. Lynch leaves, and Sosa has eyes on him. Inside, Hannibal convinces Morrison to let his team take the mission, noting the stakes, and Morrison finally relents and gives him the go-ahead. Hannibal tells Bosco about the upcoming mission when they're approached by a Black Forest team and their leader, Pike. The two sides flex on each other, and Hannibal warns Pike to stay out of his way. Later, the team is planning the mission, but Bosco refuses to go airborne with Murdoch after 8 years ago. Sosa returns to check on the men, but they have already disappeared from the tent, leaving decoys in their place. Hannibal completes his plan, and everyone agrees that it's a crazy plan. The guys steal a car door, batteries, press ID, mic, and a camera, along with various items to craft what they need for the mission. Sosa barges into Morrison's tent, demanding Hannibal's location, trying to flex her authority on him, but Morrison puts her back in her place. Sosa reminds him that sending a team into Baghdad is a direct violation of DOD orders and leaves. The heavily armored convoy carrying the cash soon sets out. Peck uses his press ID to gain access to a building and uses a powerful magnet to gain access to the sewers. He gets to a road along the convoy's route and uses the magnet to attach himself to the passing truck and takes out the truck behind it. Bosco then takes out the other truck with a motorbike. He takes out the guard on the money truck and takes control of it. Hannibal rappels in and takes out the other two guards and completes the first part of their mission. Hannibal and Peck then attach airbags to the side of the container before men trailing them open fire. Bosco drives the truck right into the river, deploying the airbags, and Murdoch gives support with a gunship. While Bosco freaks out inside, Murdoch lifts the container and flies away. They land back at base, and Morrison is notified and sets out to meet them. The men eventually let Bosco out, and he cusses everyone out. Morrison is nearby when his truck suddenly explodes. Black Forest mercenaries steal the plates and blow up the cash, sending the men flying. After the incident, Sosa is demoted to first lieutenant, and with Morrison's death, Hannibal has no proof that his team was authorized to act, and his unit is dishonorably discharged and sentenced to serve 10 years in a supermax prison. 6 months later, Lynch visits Hannibal in prison and tells him that Pike may be trying to sell the plates with the help of an Arab backer. Hannibal, who has been tracking Pike on his own, makes a deal with Lynch, full reinstatement and clean records for his team in return for the plates. Lynch can't get them out of prison legally, but Hannibal already has a plan and tells Lynch what he needs. Hannibal gets himself a cigar laced with a toxin to fake his death. He is about to be cremated, but hurriedly escapes the fire and climbs out, scaring the crap out of the mortician. Peck is living the life in prison, even extending his cell space and making plans to build a pool. He goes to relax in the tanning capsule when someone cuts the power and locks him inside. The capsule is opened on the side of the road, and it's Hannibal who has freed him for the upcoming mission to get revenge on Pike and return the plates. Bosco is on a prison transport when he sees a van with the plates "Emergency Exit Now." On instinct, Bosco rushes to the back of the bus, just as Hannibal fires a grapple at the door, yanking it off with Bosco and escaping. Sosa, who is tracking Hannibal's escape, gets the call that Peck has also escaped and to secure the other two. Bosco, Peck, and Hannibal are in a restaurant when they ask about his missing mohawk. Bosco explains that he has found religion and now is unable to kill. Meanwhile, Murdoch is in a mental home when a package of 3D glasses is delivered from an Annabelle Smith, and Murdoch knows it's Hannibal. Murdoch passes them out to the residents. At that time, Sosa enters asking for him, so Murdoch pretends to be severely disabled. The movie begins and shows a Humvee driving when a real Humvee bursts through the wall, and Murdoch hops on. Sosa fires on them and manages to hit a tire, but the men escape anyway. They drive to an airbase nearby, where Hannibal politely commandeers a C-130, and they hand Bosco a pill to knock him out for the flight. As the men are about to take off, Sosa appears on the runway but is forced to hit reverse, barely avoiding the wheels. Not long after, 2 Reaper drones fire missiles at the aircraft, and Murdoch avoids the first attack with flares. On the other attack, 1 missile destroys one of the engines, while the other hits the plane. The men have survived, though, by piling into a tank and releasing the parachutes to slow their descent. The drones begin firing their guns at the tank, so the men decide to fight back. Peck opens the top of the tank and returns fire with the mounted machine gun, managing to take out one of the drones, but loses one of the parachutes in the process. The tank starts to descend faster, but Hannibal gets an idea when he sees a lake coming up. He has Peck fire the tank's cannon, using the recoil to direct the tank over a lake. As they near the lake, they face the cannon downwards, firing all the rounds to slow their descent before crashing into the lake. Sosa is investigating Smith's breakout when she gets video footage of Lynch visiting him and remembers him from Baghdad. She gets in contact with Lynch, asking about his visit to prison, but Lynch denies knowing anything. She reminds him of the consequences of helping a prisoner escape and promises to put a stop to his operation. Lynch then orders a tap into Sosa's network, not caring that she is DOD. Hannibal and the guys begin planning the operation to retrieve the stolen plates. They have discovered that Pike has moved the plates to a bank in Germany, and they are to be transferred by an unknown Arab to Switzerland by train. Pike and his Arab backers arrive at the bank and prepare to move the plates. Meanwhile, Bosco is on the neighboring building and fires a smoke grenade through the window, just as Hannibal rappels inside and grabs the Arab, tossing him out the window with a parachute where he is grabbed by Murdoch in a chopper. Hannibal steals the case with the plates and jumps out the window, but Pike shoots the case from his hand. Bosco rappels from his building under gunfire from Pike, who then shoots his line, causing him to fall through a glass ceiling. Bosco grabs the case and escapes as Pike rappels down, still firing into the crowded street. Pike chases after him into a parking lot, finally managing to hit Bosco, dropping him. Pike comes over, beating on Bosco, who refuses to fight back. Bosco pulls his gun, warning Pike to stay back, when Hannibal knocks him down and grabs Bosco and the plates. Pike chases after the car, letting off shots, but Hannibal gets away. Sosa and other cops then surround Pike in the street, arresting him. The two meet up with Peck and Murdoch in a warehouse where they have the Arab under a hood. Hannibal then reveals he knows who the Arab is, and it's none other than Morrison, who faked his death. It turns out Morrison, Pike, and Lynch were in cahoots to steal the plates, but Morrison and Pike turned on Lynch when they found out he was just using them to get the plates for himself. Lynch never thought Morrison would betray Hannibal, but Morrison reveals he just struck first as he had plans for the plates. Peck wants to shoot Morrison dead out of anger, but the others remind him that he is their only ticket to clearing their name. Hannibal calls Lynch, confirming that he has the plates. Lynch wants him to kill Morrison, but Hannibal demands an amnesty agreement from the government for his team first. Lynch agrees but actually has a gunship heading to Hannibal's location. Hannibal has recorded their conversation. He returns to Morrison, angry at his friend's actions, but Morrison thinks he has earned it as payment for his service to the country. Hannibal grieves over how far his friend has fallen, but refuses to kill him as he will face the consequences and clear his team's name. He goes to join the guys outside, and Peck wonders if he would ever do what Morrison did to them, but Hannibal reminds them that they are like his family, and he would die before betraying them. The gunship then arrives and rips the entire warehouse to shreds, killing Morrison. Lynch then orders his team to scrub the area for the plates. Sosa is interrogating Pike at the U.S. Embassy when Lynch and agents turn up and barge into the interrogation room. He takes custody of Pike with authorization and leaves, with Sosa staring. The guys have survived the bombing but now have no idea what to do since Morrison is dead. Peck gets an idea and asks them to give him 20 minutes. Lynch tells Pike he is getting revenge for him and Morrison turning on him, and the agent beside Pike prepares to shoot him. Peck plans to reach out to Sosa knowing that Lynch has her lines tapped. They tell her they have Morrison alive with them and they want to do a handover on a container ship at the LA port. Peck then calls Sosa and hatches a different plan with her. Lynch hears the entire conversation and is pissed, and decides to give Pike a job instead of killing him. Murdoch flies the team to the container ship, where they begin to make plans to draw Lynch into the open and dupe him. The guys then create a mold and modify a soundbox and hatch a plan to finally take Lynch down. Bosco knows the upcoming battle will be bloody and is conflicted, but Hannibal tells him nothing is wrong with fighting for what he believes in and to be true to himself. Peck is worried Murdoch might get hurt as he isn't a great leader like Hannibal, but Murdoch reminds him he trusts him fully, else he wouldn't be going along with the crazy plan. Lynch has his agents posted all over the port waiting to take down the team. Hannibal reveals himself and calls Sosa, accusing her of burning them and ordering his team to move out. Lynch is happy hearing this, but Pike is nearby, warning him to be vigilant. Hannibal then moves out with the Morrison impersonator, and Lynch gets too excited, ignoring Pike and ordering a shot but misses, as Peck is controlling the containers. He shuffles 3 containers before laying them down. 2 cars burst out, and Lynch orders his men to chase and open fire, ignoring Pike's warnings that he is being played by Hannibal. The men destroy the cars and go to capture the men, but the cars are empty, and Bosco, who had been controlling them remotely, blows the cars up, killing many men. Pike has had enough of the incompetence and shoots 2 snipers dead. He then hits the ship with a rocket, piercing the hull and putting a dent in Hannibal's plans. As the ship collapses, Bosco manages to jump, barely escaping the falling containers. Peck barely escapes a rocket fired by Pike, who starts hunting for the men among the wreckage. He catches sight of Peck, and the two get into a running gun battle. Peck runs out of ammo, and Pike corners him, ready to end him, but Bosco rides in on a motorcycle and tackles Pike and body slams him, breaking his neck. Bosco removes his tam, revealing his old mohawk and that his ways are back. Meanwhile, Lynch decides to look for the plates, but Hannibal begins toying with him in the dark. Lynch comes upon Morrison, and Hannibal ambushes him, but Lynch knocks him down easily. Lynch begins to gloat over their failed plan and then shoots the alleged Morrison in the head. He then grabs the plates, but Morrison begins to beat his ass, revealing he was still toying with Lynch. Lynch hits Hannibal with shots to his vest, dropping him, but before he can end him, the container begins to rise and Lynch is surrounded by Sosa and other agents. Sosa reveals his real name as Vance Burris and shows him his arrest warrant. The Morrison impersonator was just Murdoch wearing a bulletproof head covering with the sound box. Later at the docks, CIA agents come to take custody of Lynch. The lead agent apologizes to Hannibal and the team, and when Hannibal asks his name is Lynch, the new one. Hannibal and the team are then taken into custody by Sosa's boss, who reinstates her as captain. She tries to plead for the team, but her boss is adamant that they must face justice. Before they leave, Sosa promises Peck to do what she can to help them before kissing him deeply. The guys are loaded into a prison transport to be taken away. Peck reveals a handcuff key Sosa passed on to him through their kiss.